What up, guys? I'm back. I'm finally, thank the Lord, back in Tampa. At some point there, I think on Wednesday, I was really doubting whether I was ever gonna make it back to my home because it was like one flight delay after another flight delay, after a changed flight, after me sprinting across another terminal, only to be told, hey, you were at the right terminal before. That lady told you a fib. So I sprint back to catch a flight and I'm the last person on the plane. Oh my God. So it's been a hot minute since I've sprinted for a long time, for any duration, to be honest. So I kid you not, when I say I looked at my ticket and I'm like, when you just see, oh my God, it's a different gate. And I'm like, is this that flight? And she's like, oh no, you're over on gate D. It says it's an 8-minute walk on the little sign to gate D. So I'm like, okay, pull my straps down on my backpack, pull it in, make sure all the zips are closed. I've got a bunch of stuff in there, make sure it's tight. And I am sprinting. I got to a corner and I remember thinking at the time, I was like, keep going, Holly, you can do this. You're an athlete. I'm just running as fast as I can. I get to the gate and when you see someone at the airport and they're running like a bat out of hell and you're like, what an idiot. That was me on Wednesday trying to get to my flight. And then I had to do the same thing back to the same gate that I was at. So I sat down in my chair and I'm like, I've got a jumper on at this point because when you're in contest prep, you're just cold perpetually. Airports are exceptionally cold, much like the movie cinema, much like an airplane. So I've got a jumper on and I sit down on the plane. I'm like, why is it so hot? And I think I just started crying. And the guy in my seat next to me, there's all these first class passengers. It's the first time I've actually had a first class ticket, by the way. Because I need to relax and just sleep and be pampered. And this guy looks at me and he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm not okay. Thank you so much for asking. So just a blabbering mess. Truly, I feel like I saved up all of my emotions and all of my hunger. I did so well for this prep. I don't think I cried, maybe once. I'm not sure, I don't think so. But yeah, this whole week, from Monday after the show through to today, it's Friday now, I just cried. I was watching a movie on the plane and I just started bawling watching this movie, and I don't cry. I'm a rock. You'd be hard pressed to find me even a little tear well up in my eye if I'm watching something sad. Meanwhile, Lane's uses a box of tissues every time he watches a kid's movie. It's sad. So I am a mess, totally utterly a mess. I'm just trying to keep it together. So I don't even know where to start, but a good place is probably what am I doing now, now that I am back? So first and foremost, I've just come off a pretty aggressive prep. You guys saw how low my calories got just in that last week or two in order to drop that final little bit of body fat to be competitive on stage, which by the way, second in the world, yeah. So happy, by the way, ecstatic. Steph, who won, totally deserving. She's got so much stage presence and sexiness, and I'm just So she deserved that. She looked incredible. I was very happy with how I looked from a physique standpoint. I have since kind of undone about 5 weeks of work. Yeah, what am I gonna do now? So I think the most important thing, kind of finishing up a big show, hard pushing like that, is to just have a little bit of a hot break for a couple of days. So that's exactly what I did. I didn't go super crazy on Sunday after the show or Monday because I have photo shoots. So I wasn't actually hungry post-show eat, after the show was all said and done, because of the amount of food that I eat on show day. So I had a lot of carbohydrates to kind of fill out and look good on stage. So based on what I had logged for that day, I'd had 450 grams of carbs by the time I got back to my hotel room at the end of the evening, which is about 10 o'clock. So the last thing I was actually thinking about was eating. I was like, I just want to go out and have a cocktail and dance. Like I was ready for some relaxing. So that was an easy day to kind of pass up all foods. Sunday, we really enjoyed a beautiful breakfast. I had like a burger, and then across our group from the table, we had like waffles and like a carrot cake griddle thing. Don't even know what that is, but it tasted really good. So like I kind of had a couple of indulging type foods, but like didn't go back and like binge eat on anything or anything like that. I was like, yeah, I feel really satiated. Like, okay, what are we doing for the rest of the afternoon? Like, you know, we just kind of relaxed, and I can't remember what we did, to be honest. It feels like a while ago. So yeah, I was actually pretty good until I think post photo shoot was when I think that pressure had kind of lifted a little bit. And I knew that there wasn't anything that was really pressing to kind of stay super focused and diligent. That's when I think I felt that little bit of anxiety and stress and all of that appetite. It was just like, here's a ton of rocks. And it just like a bomb dropped. And yeah, I don't want to go back and try and calculate what I consumed on Tuesday and then Wednesday. And then this is all without saying I didn't get to train all week. Today was my first proper training session back in the gym Friday. So it's been a week since I've done any exercise. So it was like this combination of very low activity levels, an overwhelming appetite, despite not really having the physical hunger. It kind of gave me a little bit of anxiety, and I've definitely felt like I've been on edge, especially on my travel day, aside from my sprint. I was actually just sitting for the whole day, and I had to try and get some work in. I still have my clients that I still work with, so I'm kind of checking in with them from remote locations. And then, you know, there was very late nights and I was still trying to get some work done. So yeah, I definitely had a hot moment of being catatonic last night. So Thursday, I was going to bed and I was like, okay, you haven't trained at all. Let's be real. One of the cookies that I ate, and I have had about 6, could be 8. I stopped counting after like the first 4. They are probably 1,000 calories each. So I probably had like, I don't know, I'm gonna guess maybe 3,000 calories on average for the last week. From Sunday or Monday through to Thursday, and I haven't done any exercise. So when I look at myself in the mirror, and for anybody who's competed or anyone that's done a really hard, badass job at their diet, and then you have like a little slip up moment like that, and you see that very instant change. And please understand that it's not just body fat. Part of that change is that you have a lot of water coming on board. So not only like for me, the food choices that I was making were very high carbohydrates. So I've now got all this glycogen kind of floating around. It's filling out my very depleted muscles. So I'm starting to physically look a little, you know, fuller. So you are bigger. If I was to like measure the, you know, circumference of my thighs and my tummy, I'm going to be bigger just on account of that carbohydrate alone. But then now there's also water moving into my cells, and there is so much carbohydrate. There's intra and extracellular fluid. It's definitely extracellular. So I just feel like a watermelon right now. It's bad. So part of that initial change that I see, and I'm like, I don't even have abs, and I'm so distended and bloated and uncomfortable. Like I was doing the leg press this morning, and like when your knees are coming into your chest, I was just like, oh, this is really bad. I'm just trying to, you know, think about what can I do today that will help me to feel more positive. What can I do? What's within my control? I can't change what's happened. So looking forwards, what can I do? So like last night, I made sure that I chopped up all my veggies, got all of the foods that I really enjoy, made sure that they were all prepped. Everything's there ready for me to go to have a really successful weekend. I've kind of said to Lane, look, I know I normally don't train on the weekends. That's our family time. I haven't done anything for a week now. Would you mind if I actually pop into the gym on Saturday and Sunday to get some of my sessions done? He was like, yeah, that's fine. No worries. Go for it. I understand. So I'm like, oh, thank God. So I can train. I can set up myself adequately to be successful with my food choices. I have since removed the temptation of all the cookies. I think I might have told you guys a few weeks back. I bought like $150 worth of cookies. I was going to film a video for y'all with these cookies. That didn't happen because Cookie Monster over here just ate them all. So that didn't happen. So I actually said to Lane this morning, I'm like, mate, can you just eat those cookies or like just deal with them, get rid of them, please? So he was like, yeah, I got you. So I feel like that was his breakfast. So that was another thing. I think I know what my weaknesses are, and I'm somebody that, hey, very recently recovered from an eating disorder. I don't want to go back into this kind of weird, kind of gray area where it's like, I'm intentionally restricting, but I also don't want to set myself up for failure either when hormonally now I have something that's driving me to eat. That's the key thing that's happened, with contest prep and getting so lean. So now it's not just a psychological, belief system, which is what used to drive my food decisions as somebody that was suffering from an eating disorder. Now I don't have that. I don't fear the body fat changes or the heavier physique, but I am struggling with the feeling of being completely like ravenous, but I'm not physically hungry because I'm trying to honor my actual hunger cues. Like I feel physically full, but then there's this thing up here going, eat, eat, eat. And hunger is different to appetite. And right now my appetite is wild. It's hormonal. So my leptin levels would have to be like 0.03, maybe less right now. So I am constantly going to have that really strong desire to eat, even though I might not necessarily be physically hungry. Like I've had plenty of calories, clearly. So that's kind of the thing that I'm gonna have to manage for a little while. And what will happen is that as I start to return to my normal body fat set points, where my body is most comfortable, and that's probably about 65 kilograms. So I'm probably pretty close to that today, but that's a lot of water and such. But like when I get to that point and my body fat has returned, now those hormones, and leptin is secreted primarily by our adipose tissue. So as my adipose tissue levels return to normal, my leptin will start to come back up. And that signal, that appetite, eat, eat, eat signal will start to dissipate. But I don't really want to go from A to Z overnight because of the discomfort that I'm feeling. So I really want to try and regulate that. If anything, I want to make sure that I'm just eating to my physical limits and not beyond that. And I think me having all of those kind of really temptations, that's not even a word. I just made it up, temptatious. Those really tempting foods, I don't want to have that quite as accessible just during this difficult time. Let's keep it at that. So, reverse diet time, woohoo! I'm gonna go in and do this right now on Carbon Diet Coach, and we'll see what my new targets are going to be or where my maintenance calories are predicted based on the last few weeks of my check-ins. So I'm just gonna go into the settings in Carbon and change my goal, which you'll see there. And I'm gonna click reverse diet. So my weight was 62.8 on Sunday post-show. And my body fat was about 11.8. I did have my calipers with me while I was away. So I'm just gonna pause this for a sec. So it's now asking me, how would you like us to calculate your new targets? So using your current metabolism will give you more accurate macro targets if you've been tracking consistently. And that, my friends, I have been. So for the last 4 weeks, I think with the exception of 1 week, but I made up for it with some cardio, I have been compliant to my nutrition. So it then goes on to say, if you are coming off a long break, however, estimated maintenance may not be accurate anymore, and calculating new is recommended. So again, if you are using our nutrition coaching app and you have taken a little break for a while, so let's say like you finished a show or you finished a diet and you just went YOLO, went on a holiday, you come back 4 weeks later, your weight has changed significantly, your activity levels are kind of all over the place. and you aren't really sure what your maintenance is, calculate it from new. Don't use that old data because it's not accurate anymore. It doesn't represent your current metabolic state or your physical state. So there's that. I'm going to use my current maintenance calories. So how much weight are you okay with regaining? So I think for me, somewhere around 0.1 to 0.2 kilograms per week is okay. So if I work out what my current weight was, so it was 62.8 one day after show, I think I'd be okay at about 65. So if I'm allowing myself to gain about 0.2 of a kilogram over however many weeks, so what's that going to be? I'll be up to 63.8 within, say, 4 weeks, 64.8 within 8 weeks. So probably 8 weeks is about the time frame that the coach is going to allow me to regain that weight back. So it's kind of drawn out. So I can say the next 8 weeks are going to still feel a little challenging because I'm going to have to put a lid on it because my body fat hasn't returned yet. I'm still going to have some of those diet symptoms. And for anybody else out there that is dieting as well and is now going through that reverse process, it's still hard. Like so many people are like, Holly, I'm reverse dieting. Why am I so hungry even though you're feeding me more? And I'm like, well, it's because your body fat's still pretty low. Like it's probably been a big change from where you previously were. So it is normal. I just want to normalize that. Again, making up words left, right, and center. Normalize that because that's why it happens. Your body fat levels haven't recovered. And sometimes even if they have, and this has been documented in the literature, actually one of the case studies from USF just down the road actually showed that even with the return of body fat levels and with the return of calories, so calories back to baseline or even over and above starting the diet, leptin levels were still lagging behind. So there's this lag time for some individuals. It doesn't even happen when we get our body fat back to the pre-baseline or pre-diet amounts. So that's all very interesting, but just understand it's normal. So does everything look okay? Yes. Oh wait, hang on. I think I'm going to go back and put it to 0.1. Yes. Calculating my macros. Okay, so my new targets are, drum roll please, 1964. Okay, so that's good. Like that sounds like a smorgasbord to me based on what I was eating last week, gosh. So it spat out my macros at 130 protein, which is a little bit lower, and we'll talk about that here in a second. 226 grams of carbohydrates. Oh my God, so much cereal, and toast, and ice cream, or cookies, and 60 grams of fat. So I'm going to switch out those ratios just a little bit, specifically my protein. So I'm going to take that back up to 145 grams, which is what I was having previously. I could probably err on the lower side if I wanted to, but you guys know, like I like protein. It's definitely a habit for me. I always go to protein. Like I just enjoy the taste and flavors that I can achieve with protein. So I could keep it lower, but just knowing my habits, I think I'm going to put it back to 145. The other challenge that I can foresee if I chose to eat a little bit lower protein now that I'm not focusing on bodybuilding, is that even though it's still within the optimal range, so obviously there's an optimal range for how well we can retain our muscle or how well we can build muscle if I was going into a building phase, there is probably a significant difference in the thermic effect of food. By me going from 145 grams of protein all the way down to 130, I mean, it's a 15 gram difference. Over the course of 7 days, I don't know, I probably have to go and do the math and work out what the difference was between me choosing protein versus me choosing a carbohydrate or a fat. And would that make a difference to my energy balance? And it would, but how significant of a difference, I don't know. But I'm just gonna, stick with what I know I'm gonna do anyway and keep it at 145. So that sees me sitting at about 212 grams of carbs and 60 grams of fat. So I just kind of kept the fats where it was. So that's what I'm going to be doing after this next week. I've definitely had a nice little bit of downtime from Monday through to Thursday, just kind of eating to my satiety cues, which clearly there have been none because it's just been constant. So I'm just like, oh. So I'm actually very keen to kind of get back into my normal routines now that I'm back. My feet are on the ground. I'm like, okay, just go to the gym. This thing that you do. I know it's been a week. So I got my first session in this morning, instantly felt better. I had a cookie for breakfast. It was bad. I was like, this is a bad idea, Holly. But I think now that they're gone, like I will focus so much better. And I'm just going to give myself a couple of days to get back into those good routines, normal eating behaviors, my normal environment. I mean, it sounds so petty, but those little things do make for quite a big impact for a lot of us. I think I'm gonna hold off on getting on the scale probably until Monday. I know it's going to be artificially inflated right now because I have had so many enjoyable, tasty foods over the last few days. So I think by Monday, if I get back on track, get my steps in, actually do some exercise and get rid of all of the watermelons and balloons of water that I'm currently hanging on to, I think my weight will be back to or a closer reflection of my true weight. And then we'll see how things go for my second week of reverse dieting. That's it, guys. So that's kind of what's been going on for me this week. I'm going to film for you guys a video about how to reverse diet. So I'll incorporate some of the information from Carbon Diet Coach, the coaching app, because we do have that function as part of the app. But I also want to remind you or give you guys a refresher, if you aren't using Carbon, how you can kind of set up your new macros, how quickly you need to make adjustments, how to make adjustments. So like, what kind of a calorie increase should I give myself? Is it a percentage base? Is there an equation that you use? So I will answer all those types of questions for you in a video coming here in the next week or so. So until then, thank you so much for joining me. I hope that this video was helpful in many ways. I feel like there's going to be a lot of you that have had a similar experience after a diet, and I just wanted to make sure you know it's normal. You're going to be just fine, just as I will be. So I will see you next week.